Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are here at the Festival for the Future. And as you know, we're having a cultural conversations. And join me today, we have another special guest.
Thanks, Lewis. Yeah, Merrin Pearse is my name.
Kia ora.
Yeah, kia ora. Thanks for the chance to have a little chat about rubbish.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to talk about so many issues, and especially when it comes to the buzzwords of nowadays, climate change.
Climate change, sustainability, what do they mean? What are they?
Yeah, what does it mean to you as an individual?
Doing what I think's the right thing that'll keep this ecosystem that humans are part of going.
Exactly.
With a bit of variety, because things come and go, but not without trashing the place.
Yeah, exactly. And so behind scenes, we were talking about different calendars, and you mentioned Nepal.
Yeah.
I like to go to Mount Everest one day, but you know what is stopping me? Rubbish. I have seen the beautiful mountains of Nepal being the dumpings of the world, and that it's not okay. And we need a new system.
Yeah, totally.
And what do you think we can do, and especially those and the decision making power to clean our rivers, clean our landfills?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. And just let's pause on the Nepal angle at the moment, because when I was there in 97 in Kathmandu, you went up to a place to look to see the mountains in the distance and you couldn't see it. And there's so much smog. So there's the air pollution. There's that physical stuff around. And so what are we doing for so many different parts of what we call rubbish or pollution? Key things just to look at. One thing that comes back to me, nature in itself doesn't create waste. Waste is such a human thing.
It's a human made, right?
Well, we don't design our things to be used by other planet mates. So, what comes out of one animal is used by a plant or a fungi as their food and input. But what we're discovering is, with our fancy technology, we've made materials that nature says, I can't work with that today. It's going to take me a few years to process that one. So we need to get back to that quicker processing time in the system. And then waste becomes a resource again for another system.
Wow, that sounds really simple, right? And you're like, well, it's not a brainer. We need to make products and packaging that are actually compatible with our nature, that our nature can digest.
Yep.
But in terms of policies, what needs to happen at the top level?
Well, there's processes started there, and the UN is a great place to get a common understanding, but it's the lowest common denominator of agreement between everyone. You're never going to get forward-thinking ideas because everyone has to agree. So it's taking those cool things that are happening in new spaces and getting them rolled out. Now, if we take, you guys talking about refugees, people coming from other countries, and you often think, for me, I hear refugees coming from third world countries. When I've had the privilege of traveling there, I've seen how the fast-moving packaging is then left behind. And you're going, well, where's the corporate responsibility to make that packaging out of the thing that breaks down quickly? Or what is the other way of delivering it, in bulk? And they say, oh, the price is too much. These people can't afford it. Well, let's work on their income, but also let's work out where there can be community refill stations. Let's get some stuff in there that you can go with a certain size container, buy that amount, take your own packaging. So it's the same whether it's a third world country or downtown Wellington. We need refill centres so the packaging is less.
And I think you touched on a very important point. We need to decolonize our food system. We need to... What do I mean by decolonizing our food system?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's an interesting word, that one, isn't it?
It's really interesting because we come from different backgrounds, and I fuck up to different indigenous tribes in the Amazon. And for us, that connection with, the whenua, the land, and where you get your food from, you have the straight connection.
Yeah, Pachamama is so important.
There's no such a thing called supermarkets because the supermarkets is the nature, is the bush.
It's the supermarket.
Exactly.
If we go back to that.
And nowadays, when you come to places like Wellington, everything is being centralized.
Yeah, I wonder when you say, what's the latest lingo? What's the latest words? Is decolonization a new version of corporatization? I'm not sure where this goes, and I've got to explore that myself a little more. But it's that if we aren't in control of our own food, energy, water, then we're reliant on a system. And who owns the system is part of what I think we're talking with the decolonization.
And I think when I said the word decolonizing is because the system is being set up by only one group of people. It's only one lens. And that's what I say, hang on, we need to deconstruct it.
Yeah.
We need to unpack it. It's like, hang on a minute. That system that was set up for a few people is actually not working for everyone. It's not working for nature.
No,
it's only working for those corporates making the bucks, but it's not working for everyone. So we need to unpack it. We need to deconstruct it.
Policy-wise, always hard because, policy again, voting system, we've got to get into our voting system, our electoral system, representation, all that. It's maybe the coming together of communities. And one way to get around the corporate colonization business model is go back to our cooperatives. And what is cooperatives? It's kind of just a modern thinking about how a community works together, pays each other, shares it with each other, and keeps everyone reasonably equally off. We always have a little variation, never going to be exactly the same, but the band of difference is so different. So I think going to cooperative thinking and cooperative models for your business is a way to get very close to community.
And that's a really good corridor there. But we also need to understand the collectiveness and the communities that work as a collective as one are communities that are minority groups. Essentially, we're talking about indigenous groups that are still working and thinking that the collective is better than the individual way of thinking.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to go back to.
Yep.
Because we got it right, but somehow we just lost it.
That whole marketing angle about you're not good enough, you need to do something, the whole lot about the me rather than the we part that just comes to us every day. And I think that's part about going, hey, talk to your neighbour. How many people in most cities or apartment blocks even know the name of one of their neighbours on their four sides if they're in a house or a section?
No one.
Very small number, isn't it?
I'll say no one, and I'll tell you why, because I'm from South America, and I used to know my neighbours. Ask me now here in Wellington if I know my neighbours. No, I don't.
Yeah, it takes an effort for us all, because I've just moved back to Wellington after being in Hong Kong for 15 years. And the good thing is where I was living in Hong Kong, we were riding bicycles. Riding bicycles down the path in this community, you had to eyeball someone, because you didn't know if they came from some side they're driving left or right. And you got to see their faces. So you got out of the box and you got out of the car or so it's connection, being back community again.
Cool, kia ora. So we're just wrapping up and we're talking about this, recycling, rubbish. What got you into that sort of like kaupapa? And what's your message for government and for those that can make a strong decision and systemic change?
What got me into it is seeing the waste of the resources. The water being used to make something, that thing being thrown away. And that's the resource side, but also people who are then having to move that waste around. So it's wasting people's time. We could be doing something more better. So it's just like total waste. And
Exactly.
That's what got me into it. I think all of us, in whatever role we have, is how do we reduce the amount of stuff that we get left over with? And that's back to the design of the product or service you're selling. How does it not leave something behind that nature can't deal with quickly and easily? And if we design the systems so that things can be used by something else, there is no waste, and then we're moving ahead. So I don't know if we can wait for government to come up with that, because we need the innovators and individuals to get ahead.
Exactly. But just going back to my main question, what is climate change? And to me, and I don't know if that resonates to you, but to me is using well our resources,
Totally.
not making the waste.
Totally agree with you. People used to say to me, well, do you believe in climate change? And I go, yes, I'm a land surveyor. I've studied glacial periods over thousands of years. But when you come back to climate change, it's changing all the time. On what perspective? Are we using our resources efficiently? Ask them that question. If they say yes, you go, let's have a conversation because I think we can do better.
Oh, kapai. Well, it's been great to hear from you, your knowledge, and what you bring to the table. Though, thank you so much
Our
for
pleasure.
having the the time to correlate with us.
Keep up the good work.
Cool. Kia ora.